Atlanta Hawks, Trae Young.
Ice Trae's origin story could double as a Marvel pilot. Game 1, 2021 playoffs, Madison Square Garden. He snakes into the paint, lofts a floater with 0.9 left, turns and puts his finger to his lips. 40 years of pent-up Knick energy explodes into a deafening expletive chant. Music to Young's ears. Ever since, he's treated MSG like a home court annex, bowing after eliminating New York, rolling imaginary dice on the Knicks logo, even trolling fans online by rating their boo volume. His game antagonizes too. 30-foot pull-ups feel disrespectful. Those abrupt, stop short break checks once milked so many whistles that the league rewrote its non-basketball move rules with Young and Harden as Exhibit A. Coach skirmishes? He's got those. Skipping a home game after a spat with Nate McMillan, only Harden opinions. Social feeds filled with sub-tweeted jabs at opposing fan bases. Atlanta's has scores. Neek, Joe Johnson, even Lou Will. But never a franchise face who so gleefully weaponizes hate. That Garden hush still echoes. But Boston says, hold our clam chowder. Betrayal stings louder than boo birds.
Boston Celtics, Kyrie Irving. It began like a rom-com. Kyrie grabs the preseason mic in 2018 and vows, if you'll have me back, I plan on re-signing. Cue standing ovation, jersey sales, commercials with Paul Pierce. 10 months later, a ghosted fan base watches him bolt to Brooklyn. No goodbye, no sign and trade, just a Nike ad and a shrug. The heel turn only intensified on return trips. In the 2021 playoffs, he stomped on mid-court mascot Lucky, prompting a water bottle toss from the balcony. In 2022, he finger saluted hecklers and shouted back, earning a $50,000 fine that he called pocket change. Add the lingering frustration that Boston's plucky 2018 conference final run happened with his injured knee in street clothes, and that 2019 flameout ended with fingers pointed at his mood swings, off-court turbulence, flat earth rifts, vaccine drama, and an anti-Semitic film suspension confirms to Celtics fans that chaos follows him like a security detail. TD Garden now auto-tunes its boos to Kyrie, a once beloved star transformed into the franchise's greatest modern villain. Point guard promises gone sour. New Jersey knows that script by heart.
Brooklyn/New Jersey Nets Stephon Marbury, anticipating when the Nets swapped Jason Kidd for Starbury in 1999, fans braced for fireworks. Disappointed, instead, they got a dumpster fire. Thoughtful, Marbury arrived with gaudy numbers and bigger expectations, but East Rutherford quickly learned why Minnesota cut bait. Ball-stopping possessions, sideline sulks, and public shots at coaches. Exasperated, he once wrote complaints on his sneakers mid-game. Fans saw the Sharpie scrawl on TV. Newspapers tallied his points and assists next to the Nets' mounting losses. 26 wins that first year. Derisive talk radio mocked him as empty calories, a label cemented when Rod Thorne flipped him for Kidd. Kidd promptly steered the same roster to back-to-back finals, and every Pro Kid highlight played like an anti-Marbury ad. Later Knicks feuds, China escapades, and reality TV ventures resurfaced Jersey's dread. They'd witnessed the prototype. Even 2 decades on, mention Starbury at a Prudential Center alumni night, and the crowd still groans louder than for any recent Brooklyn diva. Transitioning, let's trade Hudson River drama for a Carolina controversy where off-court headlines drown out highlight dunks.
Charlotte Hornets, Miles Bridges. For 3 seasons, Bridges hovered as Charlotte's human highlight. Windmill dunks, LaMelo lobs, Bridges to the moon broadcasts. Everything changed July 2022 when he was arrested on felony domestic violence charges that included disturbing photos posted by the victim. Sponsors fled. The NBA leveled a 30-game suspension, 20 served retroactively. Yet in 2023, Charlotte re-signed him, arguing second chances. Segments of the fanbase revolted. Spectrum Center's soundscape is now a split personality. Cheers after a poster dunk followed by audible groans and "no more Bridges" chants at the free throw line. Each road trip unleashes boo storms and moral judgment signs. Social media fights erupt nightly. Stats versus standards. Rehabilitation versus revenue. On a franchise short on notoriety, Bridges has become the test case for how far a team will stretch ethics for talent, cementing him as the Hornets' lightning rod for the foreseeable future. Charlotte's moral debate is intense, but Chicago's lightning rod thrived on chaos so loud it rattled scoreboards.
Chicago Bulls, Dennis Rodman. Chicago imported Rodman in 1995, knowing full well he was basketball's circus ringleader. He repaid the risk with relentless boards and relentless turmoil. March 1996, headbutts referee Ted Bernhardt, 6 games gone. January 1997, kicks a Minneapolis cameraman in the groin. 11 more games and almost $1 million forfeited. Rainbow hair became menace semaphore. Opponents never knew if they'd catch an elbow or a forearm while he argued with mascots. His tangle fest with Karl Malone got so theatrical that it spilled into an actual wrestling ring that summer. Bulls diehards overlooked the carnage because rebound titles translated into banners, but neutral arenas treated the worm like a traveling WWE villain. Boos, signs, security escorts. Even decades later, highlight comps of his antics outview his rebounds, ensuring Rodman remains the league's signature irritant.
Cleveland Cavaliers, Carlos Boozer. The handshake heard round Ohio. Summer 2004, owner Gordon Gund agrees to decline Boozer's $700,000 option with a gentleman's promise he'll re-sign for mid-level money. Hours later, Utah drops a 6-year, $68 million offer and Boozer bolts west. Gund publicly labels it a breach of word. Local papers coin pulling a boozer for any two-faced deal. The timing crushed momentum. LeBron's rookie campaign had fans dreaming playoffs. Now the rising superstar lost his double-double partner for nothing. Boozer's first return on January 2005 was a cauldron. Benedict Arnold posters, unified boos, a battery or two skimming the court. The vitriol never cooled. Even his later TV analyst gigs draw Cleveland hate tweets. Analysts still argue the betrayal delayed LeBron's title window, forcing costly trades for Drew Gooden and exhausting draft capital. For Cavs loyalists, Boozer embodies broken promises and squandered potential, forever the villain in wine and gold mythology. If deception hurt Cleveland, Dallas's ire brewed from a playoff disappearing act that money couldn't buy back.
Dallas Mavericks Rajon Rondo. Dallas hailed Rondo as an IQ point guard who'd lift Dirk and company back to contender status after a 2014 deadline deal.
To get back to that, situation, being able to play with future Hall of Famers, great coach, and a team that's ready to contend for a title. So I'm fired up and I'm ready to go.
Instead, the honeymoon lasted half a quarter. Rondo clashed with Rick Carlisle's play call controls, culminating in a national TV shouting match that required teammates to intervene. A perfunctory one-game suspension followed, but the real implosion came in the 2015 playoffs. In Game 2 versus Houston, he loafed across half court for an 8-second violation, hacked for a quick tech, then checked out with what the team later listed as a back strain. Carlisle benched him permanently. Teammates retaliated by voting Rondo out of their postseason bonus pool, an NBA rarity. Fans greeted his every touch on future visits with synchronized chanting "Rondo sucks" chants. The final ledger: 3 rotation players and a pick out the door, 0 playoff wins, and a legacy summed up by Mark Cuban's post-mortem. It happens. No Maverick before or since has torched goodwill so quickly. That meltdown was catastrophic, but in Denver, one mistimed lob pass still haunts an entire era.
Denver Nuggets.
Anthony Carter. Ask any longtime Nuggets supporter which single play keeps them up at night, and they'll picture Anthony Carter backpedaling along the sideline in Staples Center. Western Conference Finals, Game 1, score 101-99. Denver ball, 30 ticks left. Coach George Karl sends his 6'1" safety valve to trigger the inbounds over 6'10" Lamar Odom. Instead of a crisp pass to Chauncey Billups, Carter lofts a rainbow that never clears Odom's fingertips. Trevor Ariza steals, Kobe scores, and the Lakers grab a win they had no business claiming. A series that could have swung Denver's way, never did. Frustrated locals still insist that turnover turned Nug life from a joke into a curse. Carter logged 2 more steady seasons, but talk radio callers introduce him only as the guy who threw it to Ariza. Every May, the clip resurfaces, and documentaries about the Melo era freeze frame on Carter's desperate reach as Ariza streaks away. One errant lob erased a franchise's best title shot in decades, guaranteeing Anthony Carter a permanent spot atop the mile-high blame list. The sting of a single mistake hurts, but Detroit fans know hatred that was forged over years of elbows and bruises.
Detroit Pistons, Bill Laimbeer. Bill Laimbeer wasn't just the face of the Bad Boys. He authored their manifesto in forearms and flops. Standing 6'11" with a grin that taunted arenas, he racked up 3,600 fouls, dozens of technicals, and a rap sheet that reads like a highlight reel of pain. Celtics fans still hiss, remembering May 1987 when Laimbeer clubbed Larry Bird so hard the ball and gloves came off. Bulls fans replay his 1989 cheap shots on Scottie Pippen as proof the Pistons tried to bludgeon Jordan's dynasty before it began. Yet Laimbeer never apologized. He insisted Bulls sharpened his focus, calling them fuel for championships. The strategy worked. Back-to-back titles in 89 and 90, both draped in widespread contempt. Opposing crowds waved homemade Laimbeer banners, and national polls routinely crowned him the NBA's most despised player. 3 decades later, podcasts still devote episodes to why everyone hated Bill Laimbeer, and YouTube compilations of legends venting about his cheap shots collect millions of views. Detroit celebrates his number in the rafters. Everywhere else, his name guarantees a reflexive chorus of jeers. Modern villainy rarely lasts that long, but Golden State's emotional instigator is doing his best.
Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green. Draymond Green might be Steph Curry's spiritual opposite, yet he's equally essential to the Warriors' myth, and equally loathed outside the Bay. His dossier: more than 175 technicals, multiple flagrant 2 ejections, countless screaming matches with refs. The lasting image remains 2016, when a swipe at LeBron's groin upgraded to a flagrant 1 and triggered a Game 5 suspension that flipped a 3-1 finals lead into ashes. Instead of reflection, Green doubled down. In 2022, TMZ leaked practice video of him dropping teammate Jordan Poole with a punch heard round the internet. 13 months later, he cinched Rudy Gobert in a WWE-style chokehold, then capped the 2023 calendar by smacking Yusuf Nurkic and drawing an indefinite suspension the league said was necessary to address repeated unsportsmanlike acts. Warriors diehards frame it as edge that fuels titles. Rivals call it sanctioned thuggery. Add in his podcast Victory Laps, where he mocks opponents hours after games, and you have a 6'6" embodiment of the dynasty swagger and the league's current chaos agent. If Green weaponizes physical chaos, Houston's former hero mastered the art of manipulating whistles and then burned every bridge on the way out.
Houston Rockets, James Harden. For 8 seasons, Houston basked in the Beard's stepbacks, Euro steps, and nightly 35-point explosions. Then, December 2020 arrived. Harden skipped training camp, appeared in Instagram club videos during COVID restrictions, showed up visibly out of shape, and shrugged off fines while complaining the roster was just not good enough. Within weeks, he forced a 4-team blockbuster to Brooklyn, torching the locker room, detonating a new rebuild, and sending his MVP banner straight to the rafters of bitterness. Purists already resented how his leaning jumpers baited defenders into fouls. The NBA's 2021 rule changes literally used Harden clips to teach refs what not to call. Fans remember playoff flameouts too. The 2017 10-point disappearance versus San Antonio, the 27 straight missed threes in Game 7 against Golden State. Today, Toyota Center greets his visits with boos that drown out introductions, while murals featuring him were repainted within weeks of his departure. Strip club fines, forced trades, and whistle-hogging antics have forever recast James Harden from savior to symbol of everything Houston came to hate. Houston's saga was a slow divorce. Indiana's heartbreak erupted in a single, infamous brawl.
Indiana Pacers, Ron Artest. Indiana's 2004 roster looked like destiny. League best defense, 61 wins, and Reggie Miller's last best chance at a ring. 46 seconds left in Detroit. A shove turns minor scuffle. Artest reclines on the scorer's table. Then a cup of beer arcs from the stands. What followed, the malice at the palace, remains the NBA's darkest night. Artest's charge into row 10 set off chaos that cost him 73 regular season games and the entire playoffs. The longest suspension short of banishment. Title dreams evaporated. Miller retired empty-handed and Pacers ticket sales plunged. When Artest finally returned, he lasted mere months before demanding a trade for being a distraction, cementing feelings of abandonment. Every November, the anniversary footage resurfaces. In Gamebridge Fieldhouse still rains boos when his name appears on retro highlight packages. One rampage, one lost season, one trade demand. Ron Artest transformed from Defensive Player of the Year to the enduring face of Pacers' betrayal. Indy's collapse was instant. The Clippers' frustration with Paul George feels like a balloon that pops every postseason.
Los Angeles Clippers, Paul George. No acquisition in Clippers history carried heavier cost. 5 first-round picks, 2 swaps, plus rising star Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. George arrived as Kawhi's co-pilot, self-branded Playoff P. Fans instead got the Pandemic P meme. Game 7, bubble, a corner 3 wedged into the side of the backboard as a 3-1 lead vanished. Since then, his availability resembles a cryptocurrency graph. Shoulder surgery, elbow sprains, knee tweaks, hamstring twinges. Ticket holders discover load management alerts hours before tip-off, fueling resentment. Quotes about unfair narratives or good shots that just missed read as deflection. Meanwhile, Indiana and OKC fans remember earlier trade demands that uprooted their rebuilds. With each passing season, the math looks worse. Shai evolves into an MVP candidate, the Clippers still chase a first finals, and draft pick debt looms until 2026. For a franchise haunted by bad luck, George's mix of hype, cost, absences, and meme-worthy misfires has set a new standard for disappointment, earning him the loudest boos in Crypto.com arena outside Laker night. Speaking of those Lakers, nobody divides opinion under the Hollywood sign like the league's all-time scorer.
Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James.
LeBron's Laker chapter reads like blockbuster cinema, record-shattering box office numbers wrapped in endless controversy. Arriving in 2018, he missed the playoffs while Kobe chants echoed after every bricked free throw. Year 2 delivered the 2020 Bubble Championship, a triumph to loyalists, an asterisk to skeptics who dubbed it the Mickey Mouse ring. Dramatic sprawls after minimal contact, constant referee dialogue, and chase down blocks punctuated by stare downs branded derisive showboating. Rest management adds fuel. Families in Sacramento or Memphis shell out hundreds only to see disappointed DNP maintenance 2 hours before tip. But to many, the stain never faded from the decision. The 2010 primetime special that turned a free agent move into a spectacle, followed by the Heat super team celebration that aired like a villain's victory parade.
What's your decision?
In this fall, man, it's very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion.
Even some purple and gold traditionalists gripe that he fast-tracked trades for Anthony Davis, gutting a promising young core. While banners and the scoring crown hang in Crypto.com arena, road crowds still
love flop, and MJ's better. The fusion of greatest ever resume with perceived opportunism keeps LeBron James permanently seated atop the Lakers' pantheon of polarizing stars. Hollywood drama is loud, but Memphis learned this year that non-stop trash talking can exhaust even the most forgiving fan base.
Memphis Grizzlies Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks entered the league as a rugged second-round steal. He left Memphis as a cautionary tale in overplaying the heel. By 2023, he led the NBA in technicals and flagrant points, drilling Donovan Mitchell below the belt, swiping at Gary Payton II's head, and joining with anyone inside earshot.
There are some people, the Lakers are making that run, they get it to 14. You and LeBron have that exchange. There are people out there that say maybe you shouldn't do that with one of the better players in the game. What were you thinking?
I don't care, he's old.
His offense never matched the bravado, sub 40% shooting and ill-timed heat checks that stalled Ja Morant's drives. The flashpoint arrived against the Lakers. Brooks called LeBron taunting old, then struck him low in Game 3, earning an ejection and finishing the series with 31% shooting. The Grizzlies lost in 6. 5 days later, insiders leaked the infamous phrase that he would not be brought back, firmly under any circumstances. FedEx Forum exploded in debate, half relieved, half embarrassed. Now every return triggers boos and viral memes dubbing him Chill Dillon whenever a jumper bricks. From blue-collar folk hero to league-wide punchline, Brooks proved that bravado without efficiency or wins turns swagger into scorn faster than any stat sheet. Trash talk exhaustion fades, whistle fatigue begins.
Miami Heat, Dwyane Wade. Outside South Beach, Wade's number 3 jersey might as well have prison stripes. The 2006 finals turned him from rising star into conspiracy theory when he averaged 16 free throw attempts a night, more than the entire Mavericks roster in the pivotal Game 5, earning the eternal nickname D-Whistle. Critics say refs kept granting him continuation long after the actual continuation stopped. Physical plays only fed the narrative. He dislocated Rajon Rondo's elbow in 2011, flattened Kobe Bryant's nose during what was supposed to be a friendly 2012 All-Star Showcase, and collected a highlight reel of knee-on-knee accidents that left Luol Deng, Darren Collison, and Lance Stevenson hobbled.
Milwaukee Bucks, Grayson Allen. College hoops already loathed him for the infamous Duke tripping tour, but the NBA got an encore the night he met Alex Caruso at the rim. Allen's mid-air smack fractured Caruso's wrist, earned a flagrant 2 ejection and 1-game suspension, and reminded every fan base why his name trends whenever someone hits the floor. Milwaukee tolerated the baggage because his corner 3 stretched the floor for Giannis, but each hot streak felt like the calm before another shoe drop. And Game 5 versus Miami in 2023, he dribbled out the clock instead of shooting an open runner, ending the Bucks season with the ball still in his hands. Twitter became a Zapruder lab, frame by frame dissecting intent on every tumble, elbow, or mistimed closeout. When the Damian Lillard trade finally shipped him to Phoenix, many in Wisconsin exhaled, relieved the next collision would be somebody else's headache. Physical mishaps give way to emotional meltdowns in the upper Midwest.
Minnesota Timberwolves, Jimmy Butler. Draft night 2017 felt like salvation for Minnesota. Jimmy Butler, All-NBA workhorse, reunited with Tom Thibodeau to end a 13-year playoff drought. 12 months later, the fairy tale burned to ashes. Butler balked at an extension, whispered that Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins lacked, then detonated on October 10th, 2018. Marching into practice after a holdout, he teamed with third stringers, blitzed the starters, and punctuated every bucket with expletives aimed at coaches and executives. "You need me!" ESPN cameras captured the aftermath within hours.
You told GM Scott Layton, quote, "You effing need me." How would you describe what happened today?
A lot of it's true. A lot of it is true. But you gotta think, I haven't played basketball in so long, and I'm so passionate, and I love the game, and I don't do it for any other reason except for to compete and go up against the best to try to prove that I can hang. So all my emotion came out at one time. Was it the right way to do it? No, but I can't control that when I'm out there competing. Like, that's my love of the game. That's raw me at my finest, me at my purest. That's what you're gonna get.
3 weeks later, he forced a trade to Philadelphia, leaving fans to watch the Tibbs era collapse like a Jenga tower. Thibodeau fired,
Wiggins shipped, Towns marooned in lottery limbo. Every Target Center return spawns, "You need us" placards, and highlight montages replay that scrimmage as the franchise's breaking point. Miami celebrates, but in Minneapolis, he's the one-man demolition crew who set the clock back half a decade and made hope feel foolish. One hostile breakup deserves another. This one down on the bayou.
New Orleans Pelicans. Anthony Davis, 6 All-Star nods, a playoff sweep of Portland, and stat lines that blurred fantasy and reality. Yet, January 2019 revealed it wasn't enough. The moment AD hired LeBron's agent Rich Paul, fans braced for a storm. The public trade demand 6 months before free agency was the lightning strike. Fined $50K for tampering. Davis played token minutes, checked out with phantom injuries, and heard Smoothie King Center cheer when he tweaked his shoulder. The lowlight, arriving for his final home game and a "That's all, folks" t-shirt, and later claiming a stylist chosen. New Orleans flipped him to the Lakers for a pick trove, but watching him hoist the Larry O'Brien in purple and gold felt like salt in a still raw wound. Today, murals of Davis are long painted over, and whenever Zion sits, callers remind radio hosts that AD quit first. In Crescent City lore, he's not the star who left, he's the franchise player who walked out while they still held his rights. Anthony Davis rewrote the superstar leverage playbook, but New Yorkers will tell you a single botched layup can haunt even longer than a trade demand.
New York Knicks Charles Smith, June 2nd, 1993, Game 5 Eastern Finals. Knicks up 1, series up 3-2, Madison Square Garden ready to explode. Patrick Ewing kicks to 6'10" Charles Smith for what should be the dagger. Pump fake, swatted by Jordan. Second try, blocked by Pippen. Third, Horace Grant. Fourth, Jordan again. Bulls sprint the other way, steal the win, take the series in 7, and the block party enters New York nightmares. Smith had arrived with $24 million expectations. Bulky knees and a finesse tag quickly soured perceptions. WFAN christened him Mr. Almost, linking every future collapse. Reg's 8 points in 9, Houston's rim out in 99, back to those 2.1 seconds. By 1996, the Knicks salary dumped him to San Antonio. His first return produced a sea of 4 times too many posters. 3 decades later, playoff pre-shows still roll that clip, teaching new generations why the Garden groans whenever Smith's name surfaces. One tortured sequence turned a capable starter into Gotham's eternal scapegoat, the living emblem of Knicks' misery. Smith's heartbreak lingers, but Oklahoma's wound was self-inflicted and announced on Independence Day.
Oklahoma City Thunder Kevin Durant. For 9 seasons, he was Mr. Thunder, MVP, scoring champ, community pillar, until July 4th, 2016, when a Players Tribune essay titled "My Next Chapter" revealed he'd join the 73-win Warriors, who had just erased OKC's 3-1 lead. Fans torched jerseys on Facebook Live. Bakeries renamed cupcakes KD Snakes. And Russell Westbrook weaponized the pastry emoji into a rallying cry. Durant's first game back featured confiscated rubber serpents, deafening cupcake chants, and courtside jawing that required security escorts. Instead of mending fences, he spawned burner account drama defending himself, dismissed Oklahoma's country music culture, and bristled at media he once charmed. Each playoff stumble or injury since ignites Thunder Twitter with schadenfreude gifs. Even after he left the Bay, the sting remains. Small market loyalty exchanged for Silicon Valley rings. In a city that prizes commitment above accolades, Durant's holiday announcement stands as the ultimate betrayal, echoing through Paycom Center boos every time the scoreboard shows his highlights, and assuring he'll forever be OKC's most reviled figure. Cupcakes in Oklahoma, cotton candy spin in Orlando, until the Dwight mare turned sweet into sour.
Orlando Magic, Dwight Howard, Superman once lifted Orlando to the 2009 finals with cape-worthy lobs and 3 straight Defensive Player of the Year trophies. But by 2011, the costume was fraying. One week he'd beg for help, the next he'd whisper trade demands to Brooklyn or LA, then spin 180 degrees and say he was loyal to the city, The Low Point cameo aired live. Stan Van Gundy sipping Diet Coke while telling reporters Dwight wanted him fired. Seconds before Howard wrapped an awkward arm around the coach's shoulders, a 246-day hostage saga followed, riddled with backspasm DMPs and leaks about preferred markets. Orlando's decade-long rebuild began the moment he boarded the flight west, and every Amway Center return summons boos that rattle the old finals banners he helped raise. Coach mutiny, glam market cherry picking, and the dismantling of a contender cement Dwight Howard as Central Florida's perennial supervillain. From free throw line smiles to foul line fears, Philadelphia's saga centers on a pass never taken.
Philadelphia 76ers Ben Simmons, Game 7, 2021. Simmons spins past Danilo Gallinari, sees only rim and daylight, then hot potatoes the bottom of Matisse Thybulle. A viral freeze frame of Trae Young under the basket. Hands down, shocked, became the symbol of Philly frustration. Within minutes, Joel Embiid called it the turning point. Disappointed Doc Rivers questioned Simmons' title ceiling, and an entire city began counting down his days. Training camp no-show, $20 million in fines, cell phone in pocket during practice, public claims of mental health breaks. Each headline Harden boos into outright contempt. A Harden trade ended the stalemate, but Simmons' first return in street clothes drew 20,000 unison chants of F Ben Simmons. For fans raised on Iverson's floor burn, Simmons embodies the opposite of process grit: fear of the moment, refusal to work, and cashing checks while sitting out. His continued reluctance to shoot, even in Brooklyn, keeps Philadelphia's contempt fresh, ensuring he remains the most reviled Sixer since the franchise hung a banner for patience.
Phoenix Suns. Deandre Ayton taken first in Luka Doncic's draft. Ayton carried Shaq-size expectations and, at his peak, flashed enough two-way dominance to anchor a 2021 finals run. Yet unease shadowed every double-double. A 25-game diuretic suspension ended his sophomore season after one night, prompting questions about maturity. Critics harped on possessions where he settled for fadeaways, jogged the floor, or shrugged off boards that Monty Williams called gimmies. Tension peaked in the 2022 Game 7 meltdown against Dallas. Ayton benched for internal reasons, cameras catching a heated exchange with Williams as the Suns lost by 33. The franchise still matched Indiana's $133 million offer sheet, magnifying every soft closeout and single-digit rebound line. When bruised ribs sidelined him for the 2023 elimination game, Valley fans watched him grin on the bench and erupted on social media. The September 2023 trade to Portland triggered celebratory good riddance rallies on local radio. Drug ban, perceived passivity, and max deal malaise cement Ayton as the desert's forever scapegoat. North of the border, the boos still echo for Vince Carter, but down in the Pacific Northwest, one name can clear a bar stool faster than winter rain. Portland Trail Blazers. Raymond Felton. Draft night 2011, hype promised Felton's pick and roll wizardry would modernize an aging offense. Instead, the lockout saw him arrive huffing through fitness drills, confessing, embarrassed, he hadn't run a treadmill in 5 months. His jumper thunked at 40%, turnovers spiked, and a volcanic shouting match with Nate McMillan preceded the coach's firing. Rip City crowds weaponized sarcasm, roaring whenever a layup actually dropped, booing during fan appreciation night intros until the PA announcer paused. One tunnel heckler shouting, "Lay off the donuts," Barb went viral on local news, capturing the mood. Even teammates privately questioned his conditioning and early exits from film study. By July, Portland's salary dumped him to New York. Fans treated the press release like parade confetti. Felton's lone, lethargic, drama-packed campaign turned him into the cautionary tale that beats out Bowie's legs and Odin's knees whenever Blazer Nation debates worst moments. One season, one waistband, lifetime infamy. Felton remains Rip City's all-time scapegoat. Felton's fitness flop was brutal, but Sacramento's ire found fuel in a 7-footer campaigning to ship the whole franchise up I-5.
Sacramento Kings, Spencer Hawes.
Drafted to be Brad Miller 2.0, Hawes instead served 3 seasons of half-hearted box outs and perimeter chucking that grated on a fan base craving grit. Yet ordinary disappointment mutated into loathing after his trade to Philly. A Seattle native, Hawes frontlined rallies backing the 2013 sale that would have relocated the Kings north. Space Needle buzz cut shaved into his hair, vintage Sonics jerseys at Bring 'em Home protests, and social feeds blitzed with Seattle or Bust hashtags. For Sacramento diehards fighting civic death, it felt like betrayal by one of their own. When he returned, March 24, 2013, Arco, then Sleep Train, greeted every touch with thunderous "Traitor" chants and foam pitchforks. The Kings stayed, but Hawes' name remains shorthand for relocation nightmares. Reddit threads still crown him public enemy number 1. Mediocre stats, soft defense, and open lobbying to move the team fuse into a single legacy. Spencer Hawes is the most detested figure ever to don Sacramento purple. Sacktown scars trace to relocation talk. San Antonio's bitterness traces to bruises and ice pack.
San Antonio Spurs Bruce Bowen inside the AT&T Center. Bowen's number 12 hangs beside Tim and Manu, a testament to 8 all-defensive nods and 3 rings. Everywhere else, he's the undercutter who forced a rule change. Closeout slid under jump shooter's ankles. Vince Carter still curses 2005. Knees found Steve Nash's thigh. A kick in the head for Wally Zerbiak. And a foot in the chest for Chris Paul. The NBA fined him, suspended him, and finally codified defender landing space, largely because of his foot placement, the informal Bowen rule. Opposing arenas curated boo montages the instant he shed warm-ups, and Amari Stoudemire once vowed to break his nose. Through it all, Bowen's response stayed defiantly on brand. "I play hard, not dirty." Popovich shielded him, praising film study hours and cardio records, but fans outside South Texas saw only rolled ankles and ice packs. Even in retirement, player podcasts recount the most dangerous guy I ever guarded, ensuring Bruce Bowen remains the Spurs' ultimate villain long after the sneakers stop sliding. Bowen's ankle hunts still sting, but for Toronto fans the pain is airborne, delivered by a high-flying hero who chose a crash-landing exit.
Toronto Raptors, Vince Carter.
Air Canada turned a fledgling franchise into must-see TV.
Then doused the pyrotechnics. Trade demands, skipped media day, on-camera admissions he'd stopped dunking, and tipping plays to opponents soured the love. The December 2004 swap for spare parts triggered a decade of "VC sucks" chants. His 42-point revenge game, capped by a dagger 3 and icy stare, salted the wound. Even after a 2014 video tribute thawed relations, playoff discussions still detoured to the night he attended graduation hours before, claiming the potential series winner. Brilliance plus perceived betrayal keeps Vince Carter locked in as the most reviled Raptor ever.
Utah Jazz, Karl Malone. Malone's numbers scream Mount Rushmore, yet his reputation slides further downhill every time the off-court file resurfaces. He impregnated a 13-year-old while at Louisiana Tech, dodged responsibility until a civil suit forced a settlement, and later drew Kobe Bryant's ire for comments aimed at Vanessa Bryant.
I had several reporters come up to me and ask me on camera and off camera, what was the personal feud that took place between myself and Karl, because they hadn't known about it, whether it's from him or from his agent, I don't know. And my response to them was, look, it's a personal matter, it was resolved in a personal way, and that's that. And then all of a sudden, I read articles in the paper when people talking about the story and telling half-truths about what took place. I wasn't fine with that. That didn't sit well with me at all.
On court, he weaponized elbows, 40 stitches for Isaiah Thomas, a broken nose for Richard Dumas, a chest stomp for Dennis Rodman, earning dirtiest big man votes from multiple Hall of Famers. Observational. Older Jazz fans still salute the 2 finals runs, but younger supporters audibly booed when he was introduced at the 2023 All-Star Game on home turf. Accolades aside, the mix of violent play, serious moral baggage, and continued franchise veneration makes Karl Malone the most reviled name ever stitched onto Utah's navy green and gold. Malone proves a legacy can rot from the outside,
Washington's cautionary tale shows how it can collapse from within. Washington Wizards, Kwame Brown. Touted as the high school prodigy who'd anchor Michael Jordan's front office comeback, Brown instead became the league's cautionary meme. He arrived undersized, overwhelmed, and quickly wilted under MJ's public bulldozing. Practice barbs leaked within weeks. Verizon Center crowds booed routine layups, cheered sarcastically when he caught a pass, and lost all patience after he skipped a 2005 playoff shoot-around, then refused to enter Game 3. That holdout prompted a trade that basically paid the Lakers to take him. Every DC draft debate still invokes the names Gasol and Parker as who he could have had, while Kwame remains shorthand for wasted picks and shattered optimism. No player better crystallizes Washington's lost early 00s chapter. Malone's moral stain, Kwame's empty promise. Put them side by side and you see why hated wears so many faces in the NBA. We've sprinted from Trae's Hush the Garden Bow to Kwame's spiraling boos, stopping at every arena where one player turned an entire fan base red. Some earned venom with elbows, others with exits, a few with both. Quick quiz for the comments. Which villain did we miss? Patrick Beverley in Chicago, maybe? Or is it somebody in your city? Drop the name and the crime. If this trip through basketball's rogues gallery made you yell facts even once, hammer that like button so the algorithm doesn't hit you with a flagrant. And stick around, the next breakdown dives into the wildest NBA trades that almost happened. You don't want to miss the chaos.